Hey Dante, I actually considered getting a an Antiquities Millstone, but I decided too late to play the deck. But I was going to get a Millstone. That was on there. All right, looks like the chat is working. So the deck list is up, and we can talk about it. If people don't want to talk about it, I will play some Episode 1 Pod Racer. And that's just the way things are going to go. We just recorded a podcast about Gen Con. It's uploaded. It'll be ready to go by 7 a.m. tomorrow. What's up, Tropo? Yeah, I'm just really looking for questions. I know like people love saying, why this, why that? And normally I find those things exhausting because I have to type them out. But if people want to say, why this, why that, why not this, why not that, I'm willing to talk for as long as I want to talk. So that's the plan. I think the deck was pretty well designed and well optimized over the course of the weeks leading up to the event. Like really got there in the last 10 days. Thanks for the test, Joe. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys can hear me. The sound looks like it's coming through just fine. And I should be getting, yeah, and I can see chats. Hey, Golden Dice, Jack, one of my favorite podcasts. Shoot was pretty amazing over Caution. Caution gets rid of 3 damage, right? Ideally, and then like obviously there's things that circumvent shielding. Shoot getting rid of 2 vehicle dice or 2 really important damage dice was just so clutch. Shane, the guy who ran the deck and almost went 8-0, he ran 2 shoots. He liked it so much. The issue with I guess Caution isn't that much different than Shoot if you really think about it. Like the Caution's, like that Shoot is gray, and yeah, it just seems to get rid of more damage. All right, Jacqueline, go over the order of winning for a new player when it comes to the mill win, because people have been asking me a lot. So one of the things that you need to do to win the game is control the battlefield. That's probably the most important thing. Some people think that the damage tiebreaker is the tiebreaker, but that's only if the game goes to time and the game isn't decided otherwise, which won't happen in modern mill decks. So it's really all about controlling the battlefield, and when the battlefield is Imperial Palace, the real important thing in the mill match, including the mill mirror, is to, when there are 2 cards left in the opponent's hand and none in deck, you have to claim immediately so that you can begin the next round by claiming immediately. Then you control the battlefield for both tiebreakers. You, of course, can't do that if your opponent is going to beat you on that first turn because it's all about that tying. But it's really all about controlling the battlefield. It makes things really complicated. Any tips for playing vehicles against the deck? Yeah, I would play Philp and Scruffy Darth YouTube and really, really try and take the mitigation out of their hand, try and catch them with their pants down, and when they do, string together as much damage as you can. If you have the open window, you need to take those rerolls. You need to make sure you kill someone. Priority, why overconfidence? We played Overconfidence Monk because we want to roll our characters into the pool. Flank became a card that against other 3-wide decks we could never cast. So we cut it, but we still wanted something like a 1-cost good mitigation card out of hand. So Overconfidence replaced Flank in the days leading up to the event. We just couldn't get the flanks off against 3-wide. Priority Mulligan targets. So because there are so few upgrades, there's only 6 dice upgrades, and one of them's Force Jump, which isn't necessarily furthering your plan, and the 2 Anakin's Pod Racers. It's really just you're kind of at the behest of what is in your hand. So if I got, like say, 2 upgrades, like a Bartering and a Meditation in my hand, and a Pacify or a Hidden Motive, I probably would keep the 3 of those because I have cheap removal for round 1. I have a meditation or a bartering that I can slam. If say I mulligan the other 2 cards and I get an easy pickings, I can slam the bartering and then put it on Yoda, try and roll Yoda, get some more resources, try and roll Anakin, get some more resources, play the meditation on Cassian. Really want to play the meditation on Cassian so you can override it with a second chance as soon as their deck starts to disappear. You don't have to wait until there's no cards left, but you can get them pretty close if they're going after Cassian and overwrite the meditation with a second chance. But really, what I would do is I would just see what was in my opening hand, not ship upgrades if I had 1 or 2, try and get some more. Obviously, you want to hit the Pod Racer. There was a time where we were playing Start Your Engines because the Pod Racer was so good, but it just got cut for more important things. Okay, so what makes bartering so strong, Dan Flynn? And I think like if you listen to Tiny's latest video, is that bartering allows you to close out games. It's just more discard sides, more focus sides, and don't sleep on that special, making your opponent draw a card after they've claimed to discard it with Cassian or Anakin or the Pod Racer. I did that on multiple occasions over the weekend. But really, it's about finding dice with the discard sides. It's so important to get the game is so hard to close out, especially when we're on the opposing battlefield, which we most often are, and say we don't get to hyperspace jump to the Imperial Palace. We need something to turn Yoda's dice to. Use his special to get more discard sides. So Jack, golden dice. I almost killed someone with Cassian in my round. I can't remember if it was my top 32 match or during day one, but I played against the Piet Rebel Trader deck with Snoke, and he Snoked twice, and I rolled two range sides. My Cassian rolled 2 ranged all weekend. I'm dying to try the aggro deck because my Cassian just rolls straight damage. So he had 6 damage on the trader, and I had a 2 range showing, and he had to remove the damage die, or else I was going to kill his rebel trader. It was going to be sick. I was going to just quit Destiny right there. What aggro deck do I think could chop this down effectively, if any, is aggro deck? I think that Cassian Yoda deck could be really strong. I got the list from Brian Lindbergh today, and I'm looking forward to checking it out. I think that deck is really good. I don't know what else, because like we even figured out how to beat Cassian Yoda and like the Kylo decks. So I really think that fast aggro like might not be enough in 3 wide. I think like the Mandalorian Super Commando, we saw that in the finals, that's like a really good way to go. 3 dice, Talzin. 4 dice deck, Talzin, a lot of different upgrades, a lot of different ways of attacking. In the Discord, I posted always-take-the-shields.com. Are you always taking the shields if you win the roll? Last year at Gen Con, all 8 rounds of Swiss, I had the shields. All 9 rounds of Swiss at Worlds, I had the shields. All 8 rounds of Gen Con this year, I had the shields. So I've never not had shields in a major tournament of Star Wars Destiny. It's not always take the shields. It's just taketheshields.com, just in case we get bought out by Elon Musk and he buys our domain name. We will be taketheshields.com. I always take the shields, and there aren't too many decks where I would not take the shields, especially this one. What brought Force Jump into the deck, slowing it down for the planetary play? It wasn't necessarily Force Jump was always in the deck. I would say that Force Jump was card number 1 for me in a lot of ways. I was not going to play Yoda Mill without Force Jump. There were some games where I mitigated 8 dice over the course of 2 turns, 2 rounds when I'm playing against vehicles. It's good for planetary, but it's just also really good against any vehicle deck that's trying to roll out slowly. Yeah, I think mass dice is the answer to winning most matchups. I think dice saturation is just a really good strategy. But you can't get you can't go too far, because if they play the second hyperspace jump or they play rebels to make sure they get the hyperspace jump off, this is a hard deck to combat. Again, my goal wasn't to beat this deck going into Gen Con. I knew that we would have the best deck. The best version of this deck, and I thought that most teams and most players would be on 2 wide, and I wasn't wrong. I don't know if anyone, maybe 1 other person, 2 other people played this deck besides us. But I was pretty confident that no matter what, we were going to have a really, really sick version. So I haven't really thought about how much to beat it. Yeah, Force Jump is just so good. I can't say enough about Force Jump. I love it. And we thought about playing 2, but there's just so many things in the wide version, and the 3 wide version, that made it so it was just too much to play. In the wide version, sorry, I'm just seeing how many peeps we got in here. Sweet. Let me get back to the chat. Sadly, I think my Obi Max deck would play into the 6 hands. I can blow through half my deck in no time. Yeah, one of the things that I like about Destiny and aggro decks is using all my cards and drawing 5 new ones, and I think that it's really hard not to. The Obi Maz did go 8-0 at day 1, beating Shane in the last round. He said that I can't remember if he said he made a mistake or if he just got unlucky, but he felt like he could have won the match. But yeah, Obi Maz. Obi Maz is another one like Talzin, right? It's got really consistent dice, and it has action cheating, and you can do 4 speed, confidence type plays to really hit that max damage. Was Rebel one of the last cards to cut? I actually never put Rebel in the 3-wide version. We fought about it a little bit, but the deck was really tight. I was pretty steadfast that I would not play Rebel. Actually, this kind of goes into what I just said to Machine Guns 1 about Obi Maz. Is the thing with Rebel is that, like, if you don't have the opportunity to use it, what are you going to do? Hold it? And, like, what if you don't? I mean, what if that, so you hold it and you go into next round and you flip the pod racer die to discard and they mitigate it, right? There's just not a lot of discard sides out there in the deck, and I don't like the strategy of holding a card from round to round. I want to either use it or I want to discard it and find something else, because I don't want to go into a round having no mitigation, and I don't want to rely on Rebel to be my mitigation. Tiny is playing in the crosshairs. What do I think about that? I think it costs 3, and I think if you'll look, only one card in the deck costs 3, and it is a 1 of Hyperspace Jump. Hyperspace Jump is so freaking amazing that it is worth it. It can save you all kinds of damage. Well, into the crosshairs, they have to roll multiple sides. I will say Tiny only played 1 Beguile, and I think, like, of all the things, all the changes, all the things that he did differently, and he did a lot of things right? He put 2 Barterings in there. The no force jump is probably the second most unforgivable, but not having 2 Beguile is easily the most unforgivable thing, I would say, like, if I looked at a list. And I'm not, like, calling out Tiny's list or anything. I'm just saying, like, 2 Beguile is incredible, and I can understand why he would go for it in the crosshairs. It's just I never wanted to pay 3 to do any of that. I want to be able to play multiple mitigation in a round. Good players don't resolve all their dice at once. They resolve them one at a time, playing around things like Mind Trick and in the crosshairs. And Beguile is really good, whether they have 2 dice or 4. Like, it's just always solid. Thanks, Jackalman, whichever one you are. I really appreciate it. Oh, it's Ray. I should have just read all the way to the end. Thanks, Ray.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up? Andrew's here, North American champion, in the podcasting room. Yeah, so you can't see the questions, so I'll just read them to you as they come.
I can. I just might be a little delayed because I have the stream up.
Okay, but are you on Twitch or YouTube? Because I have the thing where I can see them both.
On the Twitch stream, you have the feed on the left-hand side.
Oh, you're looking at the stream. Sick. Yeah. Yeah, we were flying pretty fast in the first 15 minutes. I feel like I was fielding a lot. Do you have any, like, thoughts about the deck while we're waiting for questions?
Looking at it now, I realize there's, like, quite a bit of one-ofs, and I think some of them are, like, late adds, but they were all pretty solid. Like, I don't remember ever having a card underperform in the deck ever, like, throughout the entire tournament. Honestly, the most disappointed I ever had to have a card was the Force Illusion in the finals. That felt real bad.
Yeah. How do you feel about Goggles?
They were fine. I didn't play them a ton just because it's only a one of, and like, so I didn't get to see it a ton. But every time I had them, they were fine. The event hitting only events was a little tough just because we had the Philp already, and that's generally what our opponents were playing. But the 2 focus when it did hit was just a monster.
Yeah, the 2
so
focus.
I like the upside of having that one of.
Even just the 1 focus is usually enough to get you there. I really like Goggles. On paper, it seems perfect, right? 2 resource sides, 2 focus sides, and a pull from hands side that can also do things like take their blow, like their bigger mitigation cards that Philp can't. So thoughts on the 1 of Hyperspace. So I know for me, Hyperspace Jump was the one of the last cuts. We had 2, but we were just playing it very rarely, and we were really worried about time. So the last ad was the second clandestine operation, and the second jump was just the card to go. Did you feel like you needed more than 1 Hyperspace Jump throughout the round, like throughout the games, or did you feel like 1 was fine?
Honestly, the only times that I really wanted a second one was when I had it early, and I either had to hold on to it for way too long or had to pitch it just to cycle. And then I just knew I was never going to have it again. But it was never really necessary. I mean, obviously, like, won me a game in the final, so it's a great card that we want at least 1 of. I don't think we really lose much by having 2.
Yeah, I would say there were a couple games where I held it for a long time, and it generally paid off. But there were also games where I was like, all right, I just have to discard this. Did we consider playing the second garbage shoot over overconfidence? I didn't. Garbage shoot, especially if like a guy's already dead, can be detrimental. Like you almost can't play it because you're gonna have a really hard time hitting their hand and getting cards out of their deck. So I never really considered a second garbage shoot, and I like overconfidence. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, same. Yeah, the second garbage shoot is usually dead when you get late. Like once you're down to two characters, it's usually either Anakin, who's really important, or Yoda, who has two dice, and casting with an upgrade. So one is fine and definitely is a great card, but I think two is too much. And yeah, overconfidence has a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, overconfidence is great. Was great for me, and like it's really great against Yoda, especially in mill when a lot of those sides are shut off. Thoughts on Rebel? I talked about Rebel already for a while, but do you have any thoughts on Rebel not being in the list or
Yeah,
why
so
you really...
funny story about Rebel. After the finals match, Jordan was like, "So do you play any Rebels?" And I was like, "No, we don't have any." He's like, "I was playing around it the whole match."
Sick.
So
Did
that
its
worked out
job.
nicely.
Did its job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I said that like for me, sort of like Jump that we just talked about, it's just like if you don't have the opportunity to rebel right then, like what are you gonna do? Hold it? Like I don't want rebel to be my only mitigation. I don't want to hold it round to round and not draw into better mitigation. So like I get that we kind of turn on rebel by being able to flip the pod racer die. I just feel like if you rely on rebel to get you out of jams, you're gonna get burned. And I don't ever want to get burned. I would rather just have good mitigation.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get the argument. I think it's probably one of the last cuts. Like, I think it'd be really. It's obviously an amazing card, and like you can get a little burned if you're on your own battlefield by losing some high value cards. But yeah, especially since we have so little dice in the deck, if you don't get them early, you really want to be cycling through to try to find them. And Rebel's a card that like you're always going to hold on to because it's always valuable. But if you're not able to get out and get a discard side showing, it's just a dead card. So it's a little inflexible and like not always super consistent, and I think it leads to bad end around discard decisions.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. That's how I feel. Someone had asked earlier about in the crosshairs and why we didn't play it. Tiny's on too. You have any thoughts on that? I talked a little bit about it, but just wondering if you had anything to add. I said it was mostly the cost and the way good players resolve their dice is not all at once. And sure, it can like protect you from a god roll, but those are pretty rare, and I think we already have ways to deal with that.
Yeah. So my thoughts on that. So it was a one of in my 2 wide deck, and it was fine there, just because you had less options. Like you can really play garbage shoot. So it's really expensive. 3 is a lot, and we don't have a ton of money. So in the lay version of the deck, we usually had a lot more money because we play one chance cube. You're usually taking more money more often than we're taking mill with Yoda. Here, this deck runs a little more poor since you have a lot of you have a ton of 2 cost cards that you want to play. So I think 3 is just a lot, and it's really easy for good players to play around. A lot of the decks that are weaker matchups don't just roll out 6 dice at once and
Right.
hit them all in the same symbol. So I just think it loses value there.
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel. Shane explained that he played 2 shoots because he wanted to see it early, and then Monk asked to make a version for trilogies. What would you immediately cut or add? I don't know. I've never played trilogies. I guess I'd probably play a Start Your Engines, but other than that, I don't know. I would cut the cards that are legal and add cards that are legal and worse.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've never played trilogies. Not even a single game.
Yeah, same. I looked at a deck list once and I built one and I was like, yep, that's about as far as I'm getting. Has Beguile taken the place of Flank? Yeah, I think Beguile has taken the place of Flank big time. Beguile's so amazing. Having insane 2-cost mitigation when you're already set up, like Entangle and Beguile, was really, really sick. I loved Beguile, and I've already talked about it on the stream, but I think it's really, really good.
Beguile was the biggest change I made to my lay deck. That one made Sergeant. That card is gross, and I don't know if it occupies the same slot as Flank as much as with it and the other really good 2-cost removal as well as easy pickings. You just don't have the need for Flank. Your removal slots are taken up by better cards. I think Beguile more takes over the Mind Trick slot. That Mind Trick's basically unplayable with Beguile in the format, I think.
Yeah. Unless you wanted a third, and I think that would be a different conversation. Did we test con artists at all? It could be cray, but it seems bad late. Yeah, I'm not into the con artist thing. I know one of our Patreon subscribers played a mill deck, and she ran con artist with cunning, so like the cunning would double trigger the con artist. It just seems like a lot, and it's expensive. Like we only have meditation and pod racer is the two cost quote unquote upgrades because they're so amazing. They're so big blowout. Like they're just so good.
Yeah, so like we don't obviously want to run a ton of upgrades because we need all the removal and all the utility that we have. And so the upgrade slots are already pretty tight, and the ones we have are really, really good. The only one that's really bad late game is meditation. The rest of them we're okay playing in the end game. So Konos is another one that you don't really want to play in the end game. And so having cards that are dead late, especially when the game's close and you need to close out, you need the removal to be able to survive. I think hitting that late is just I don't like having cards that I can't play at certain points of the game. I like all 30 of my cards to be playable in any round that I draw them.
Yeah, I think I'd play cunning over the con artist no matter what, just because it has the discard side, it has a focus side, and like if Yoda's still alive, it turns your other it basically turns whatever character you give it to into like a mini Yoda. All right, Monk asks, since there are more three-character decks, do you think flank is an easy cut these days for these decks? I'm not sure. I think like it depends. The thing about flank is it's really good in vehicle decks where you're keeping your characters untapped and you just like roll your vehicles out and you kind of like pressure your opponent to activate first, and then you turn on flank, and it's insane. So I don't know if like flank is bad all of a sudden. It's just this deck strategy is to get dice in the pool. Like you're rolling the pod racer, then you're rolling Anakin, so you're down a character in the flank race. So I just don't think it was a good fit here, but I still think it's a good fit in a lot of decks. All right, here's one for you. Now that Mill won a major event and crushed the cut, how do you think it alters the competitive meta? Do you think two-wide Mill becomes more popular, and how favored do you think it is versus three-wide Mill?
So a lot of my testing leading up to Gen Con was on the two-wide version of the matchup, so I played a lot from that perspective. It's definitely favored. The Mill matchup comes down a lot to tempo and getting control and using the battlefield, and then making sure that you're out first, making your opponent have to respond to your dice early, so that puts you even farther ahead. So two-wide just crushes that. So it's not unwinnable. Outrun was a god and won, I think, two. He was 2 for 2 in those matches.
And against two-wide Mill, which is insane.
Yeah, which is nuts. So it's not like unwinnable, but it's pretty bad. It's definitely one of our worst matchups. I don't think two-wide Mill will ever become more popular just because it has such a bad aggro matchup. And like I said on the podcast that will be coming out sometime, I think you always have to, at big tournaments, there's always more aggro than you think there's going to be. So I think two-wide is so much more unfavored versus the field than three-wide is that it's going to struggle to really get to the top.
All right, Uncle Ben Stark says, did you consider Scruffy instead of Philp? I never considered Scruffy in this list. It was just not an effect I want to pay one for. There are just so many better ways to get a card out of their hand that a lot of time, and like Scruffy, Philp almost always hits. So yeah, it's just not something I want to pay a resource for. I really want to save all that for mitigation or important upgrades. Woodrow asks, do you have anything to say to the Mill haters? Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give the serious answer first. So in every game that you ever play, there's going to be a play style or some kind of deck or list that you don't enjoy playing against. There are things that are what people would call a negative play experience, and that changes from person to person. But the things to do against that are not to whine and complain and say, oh, this isn't fun. It's to figure out how to beat it. So, like, figure out how to adjust. I think the biggest problem with people playing against Mill is that they want to play the same game that they play against everything else. And you have to play a very different game. It becomes a different strategy. You have a different win condition. And so people have to adjust, and people don't want to do that.
Do you have a less serious answer?
Yeah, get fucking good and deal with it.
Get good. My thing, like, so this is, like, I guess I've been looking for a way to bring this up, but, like, you know, I've heard you say, and, like, I don't want to limit yourself, like, limit you as a player because you're a great player, but, like, I'm a Sabine player, I'm an aggro player. You were very hesitant to go 3-wide, right? Like, that was one of your main, like, holdbacks going into the event.
Yeah, so, like, going into Worlds, I tested DBS a ton, and I tried to, like, learn how to play the slow Joe style of game. And I've always struggled with 3-wide. Like anything I've ever played in 3-wide, I've really haven't had a great time with, just because I like the tempo, fast aggro game. So yeah, it was a serious struggle.
Yeah, so for me, it's like I always pride myself in any game. Like I want to be able to do everything, and even like in the months like following Worlds and pre Gen Con, or like I was talking in the Discord to people about like how I was working on, Five Dice Villain and the three wide there, and like I really liked it. And so many people were like, oh, I thought you were like an aggro player, and it just like I don't know why, but I got like the Kierkegaard. If you label me, you negate me, like bothering me. Like I just want to play whatever's good, and like if Mill's gonna be good, I want to play it, and if it's not, I don't. Or if everyone's gonna play it, I want to figure out how to beat it. Like I pride myself on evaluating the meta, figuring out the meta, and deciding like how to be the best at the meta, and it's like one of my strengths, in my opinion. And I also want to be good enough to play whatever, whenever. So I think that's my point on what I have to say to the mill players. Like if you don't like mill, then figure out a better deck and play that. The answer to mill hate is to tell them at least you didn't bring your blockade resource choke deck. Mill isn't damage, but isn't resource choke like prison decks and MTG. You still get to play cards and do stuff. Yeah, the funny thing, Dante, about that is like, yeah, I tried the DJ Sienna blockade deck, and it was still like, oh, well, if I play against Yoda, they just get a million resources anyway. Like resource generation is not hard in this game. So if you really want them, you can find them. And if you're a smart player, you build a deck that specifically helps you get resources because it helps you do everything. So yeah, until we see an insane blockade resource choke deck, I'm not even worried about that kind of hate, because I just don't know with the ease of resource generation if it's even possible.
Yeah, one little thing. So totally forgot what I was going to say now. Never mind. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll just read the next question from Monk of Monk's Game Battlefield. What do you guys think of the store champ that had 12 out of 14 players with a version or your mill deck a day or two after? What do you think of how much loopers affect the meta on a consistent basis? Is that true? We had a store champ with 12 out of 14 players playing mill? That sucks. It's like the least fun event I've ever heard of. How do I feel that loopers affect the meta? So I don't think it's unfair to say that we have the most popular Destiny website, or at least the most frequented, right? Like KOR might get more hits than us, but I don't think anyone else, like no one else posts 5 days a week, right? So we automatically have the most content, and we've done really well at events. I think what it is like we're all adults, mostly adults playing this game, and like when you have these good players giving free content 5 days a week, and like doing well and handing you the keys to the castle, and to give a bad idiom, is just, it makes it easy for people to say, oh, well, that's really good. Good players played it. Here's a list. I want to try it. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think in any game, you're always going to look towards what people consider the best players, and the people with the best tournament results, what they're playing and what they're doing. I do it in X-Wing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think that, combined with the fact that you do have a ton of huge visibility, and you guys put out so much content, we have this community that then goes and shares that across the country with their local communities as well. I think there's always going to be a lot of influence there. But we do try to play the best decks, so just by default, people are going to be playing decks that we're playing.
All right, Jack from Golden Dice, how did you fare against Cuenca's deck in testing? Is Climate Array tough to deal with? I thought it was. I mean, Cuenca was steamrolling me with that deck. Like, I almost played it. It was, I could not beat it. But I got a game with Shane and steamrolled him, and he's like, let's run that back. And what he did was he got the pod racer out, and he took the shields every single time from round one and shielded up with Yoda. So he was getting 4 shields a turn, to the point where I had 2 climate disruption arrays, and I was way behind on the damage tiebreaker arrays. So if someone knows what you're doing, and from the very onset of a game takes every single shield, then yes, I think that the mill deck will beat the climate disruption array deck. I think I don't know how confident a lot of players will be in adjusting their strategy when they see a certain lineup across the table. That amount of shielding slows down the actual mill, and well, it should, in theory, keep you alive. It could cause you to go to time and lose. There's a lot of factors that are untested. You kind of have to go with your gut. And I don't know how many players are just willing to go with their gut and be like, all right, against this deck, I'm just going to shield up from the very start. But yeah, if they do that, I think the indirect damage deck will struggle against infinite shields.
I didn't play any games against it, so I trust you.
Okay. Here's one for you. Did Gen Con show the bad Mulligan deck, for example, the Yoda Cassian damage when people think mill, is not a viable strategy in Destiny, or should Destiny Council just have played a mill battlefield? Do you understand what he's asking?
Yeah. So I played one of the Minnesota guys, Michael Spalding, I think was his name. So he's a community member. He was playing Torn Streets. It's discard a random card from hand. So I think the problem with the general strategy of bringing an unexpected deck, especially one so you like Bad Mulligan, it's something we see a lot in Hearthstone too. It's you're not going to fool the good players. So the people that you already have an advantage on, sure, you could get even bigger advantage on them. But when I sat down and I saw Jetta or Torn Streets, my mind obviously like started pinging warning signs. Like there's something weird here. He's not running Command Center, which is what that deck normally runs. He's not running Imperial Palace, which is a better version of Jetta. He's running this weird thing. So I mulliganed safer. I wasn't as aggressive for my upgrades. And thankfully I had Philp, and I was able to Philp and see a lipo, and I was like, all right, now I know what I'm doing. But problem with strategies like that is that just as the higher you get into the tiers, higher you get into the tables, you're going to have less and less effectiveness with that strategy.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, I played against Andrew Rothmel, who ran Com Tower, and I had known from Jedi Geek Girl and like just, having private conversations with her that the Yoda Cassian aggro was really picking up steam in Minnesota. And, I had thought about how Andrew played Yoda Hondo and like the way he played it with X8 and like really aggressive. I was 99% sure that he was going to be on an aggro deck when I saw Com Tower. But I even said to myself, like, Com Tower with Cassian's mill sides is also just really, really good. So, or his discard sides rather. So I wouldn't put it past him to be playing a mill version. But what's good, like the only real, like I think the only card that would really get affected by the mulligan in our deck is like, do you or do you not keep a force jump, right? I think I would probably mulligan the same. I want mitigation, I want some upgrades, and I want to make sure that I can play whatever mitigation I have to the point where I'm probably gonna wait if I see a Yoda Cassian deck. And take some resources with Yoda or Anakin before I even play an upgrade or a pod racer, just so I know I'm holding up the mitigation for an early blowout. But I think Com Tower is really good, regardless of whether or not you go mill or damage strategy. But I'm with you. I would just play whatever the best battlefield is for your deck, and not worry about fooling. I don't think like Hearthstone's a good example with Warlock, because Warlock Control and Warlock Zoo are so different. That's like you really in a pickle, with your mulligan. Whereas I don't think a Yoda Cassian, like you mitigate the dice all the same, whether they're mill dice or damage dice. Any more questions? Going on like 36 minutes. Are you still watching on Twitch? I'm wondering how many people are here.
Yeah, there's 28 on Twitch.
Cool.
All right, Smurl asks the mill god himself, are we ever wanting to discard to reroll?
Ooh, do we ever DTR? Okay. How about you?
Definitely there's some times when Yoda doesn't want to cooperate. Really, his dice dictate the round most out of anything else. But it is rare since we have so much focus, and most of our dice have sides that we want no matter what. So really only a couple times each game would I say that I would discard to reroll.
Yeah, I would say I probably rerolled like 4 times the entire tournament, but I don't actually remember. My Yoda dice hated rolling specials all day. I need to buy 2 more Yodas, and hopefully they roll more specials. Who's your favorite teammate, and why is it Biggie? Who has the best beard on the team, you, Biggie, or Outrun?
I mean, that's not a real question, is it?
Oh, it's pretty tough.
I don't think it's that tough.
Okay. Why? Like, I guess my real question about beards is like, why? You just like the way they look?
So for being completely honest, like laziness is like 100% a factor.
It can't feel good. I think looking at you bastards with your beards, I never shave. Like I always just use my clippers and have like a little stubble or whatever. But when I got home, I shaved because looking at you fuckers for like a week straight just made me itchy.
So
What?
like, here's the thing though, is that there is that like in between to where it is terrible, but like once you get past that, it's fine.
Yeah. He's got fucking food in it or birds living in it or whatever. I don't know. All right, we're getting behind. What's the best way to close out a tough game with a dead Yoda, especially? How do you feel about that? I think Pod Racer goes a long way towards closing tough games. And kind of already answered this one of the first questions of the night with bartering and just adding dice with discard sides. Do you have any thoughts on that? I guess like it's a really good question for you because like game 2 of the finals, you were really ahead, and then they killed Yoda, and you just like it was like molasses going up a hill in January. Like you just stalled.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it depends on the upgrade package you have out. Obviously, Barding goes a huge way. The number one answer is Pod Racer. I think that's the best card in our deck, and yeah, losing that in game 2 was heartbreaking. So I think it's just a matter of trying to get extra dice to compensate and trying to get more pressure on the opponents. Because once Yoda goes down, it hits your consistency and it hits your money generation. So it really does slow you down. So it's a matter of just trying to get more dice out and trying to maybe like take some riskier plays where you're taking extra damage to get dice into the pool, so that you can catch up and because you're just not going to win that grind without all of your characters alive.
Yeah, it definitely comes to a point where you say like, all right, I'm going to not mitigate dice because I need to slam this extra bartering, and I'm going to take some damage, and I'm going to hope that my deck and the way it's built with its extra health and its 4 solutions, its second chances, bail me out. Dan Flynn asks, was force speed ever considered in the beginning or just instantly regarded as not needed? Sorry if that was already asked. It was not, but it's just like in a 3-wide deck where you're already taking a bunch of actions. Like action cheating doesn't really it just doesn't get us anything because if any, like we're expecting some of our dice to get mitigated, and in some ways I think we even want it, right? We want them to play mitigation cards, play cards on table throughout the game.
Yeah, speed's not a huge factor. Honestly, it probably would give us the biggest advantage in like a mirror type style, but even then, it's just not good enough.
It's just not worth the card.
It doesn't give us anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I would rather play like a second force jump. Since Yoda is going to be the first target to beat Mill, you probably have to go through both second chances. Am I crazy for considering a copy of Flames to discard the second one? Or am I crazy for wanting to play blue aggro in this environment altogether? Lol. That was left high kick. I actually think Flames of the Past is just a pretty insane card altogether. It just deals with cards that would otherwise blow you out. And I think second chance is a really good example of that.
Yeah, I agree.
What's my favorite Anakin Skywalker quote? It's definitely "Are you an angel?" They come from the moons of Viego, I think. Without a doubt, that's the best one. I don't even think it's close. How about you? Do you have a favorite Anakin quote?
I mean, that was going to be my go-to. I don't really think I have a number 2. So.
I even like the one that's just on the card. I've built a racer. It's the fastest ever. Like, that's such a good one, too. Anakin Skywalker, like, poor Jake Lloyd for having, like, a mental breakdown, but Anakin Skywalker, like, if they just didn't make that bastard say yippee, everything would have been fine, I think.
I think after the weekend, I will say now this is pod racing has to be like
now this is
that's ingrained in my brain.
Yeah, I might watch Phantom Menace and just try and like get a handle on some new Anakin quotes. There was an interesting play, Andrew, in the finals where Yoda was at 8 damage and you didn't drop 4 solution. Do you remember what you were thinking? I have an idea, but this is obviously for you.
Do you remember what game it was in?
I don't. I think it was in 2. It was in 1 or 2 when you like actually lost Yoda. Like you could have saved him with like. So I think the shortcut to this answer is like Force Illusion wouldn't have actually have saved you because the ping, like it only stops 1 damage, so it wasn't even going to be an effective in saving him. Dante2177 saying it was in game 2.
Yeah, I don't think it was game 1 because game 1 he went down so early in game 2 there was like nothing I could do. Yeah, so my general thought on Force Illusion in the match is it's 1 resource and 1 card to most of the time stop 1 damage because even if he rolled the 2, first of all I'm mitigating most of the 2s. And he has so many pings that can probably just like ping through it. So the resource was not worth stopping 1 damage to stop an inevitable death when I could do more with my tempo and my other cards to get more value. So I know like on the stream, you, Mike, were like saying a lot of times I was like looking for Force Illusion. Force Illusion was a dead card to me. Like I never really wanted to play it.
Yeah, I hadn't considered that until you didn't play it to save Yoda, and then it like all kind of started clicking for me. But I still like I'm also used to Talzin decks having a lot more like modified sides.
Yeah. So like the most he was ever doing to me off of 1 action was 2. So like the most it would ever stop was 2. And so that's taking one card from my hand, which could be a reroll, and one card from my deck in a matchup where I knew the counter mill was relevant, as well as the resource. It just wasn't enough to like. Most of the time, I was able to get out Yoda and like resolve before he killed, anyways. So like just getting that value was it just wasn't doing enough for me.
Yeah, I have a lot more respect having done the semifinals and the finals and the commentary for like sportscasters when you have to talk for 2 hours straight. Like I couldn't think. There weren't commercial breaks where I could like stop and think of things to say or like think of. I was like 100% reactive. So I'm sure I said a bunch of stupid shit because it was really exhausting to have to talk that long and like say insightful things.
Can definitely relate. I used to do shoutcasting for esports, and so like I can definitely relate to like having dead time and needing to fill the air. I thought you and Zach did a great job.
Thanks, bro. Any other questions? Trying to think if I have questions. I'm surprised no one's asked about clandestine operation. That seems like one that like sticks out as being, not standard in all the mill decks. I know I was clandestining in all kinds of weird ways. I think the weirdest one was against Outrun in the top 8 rather. Like I couldn't re-roll, and he was going to claim to take the clandestine from my hand because it was my last card, and I had Yoda on 2 shields, and I had some money, so I just played it for 2, like on the 2 shields, and took the 2 shields because they weren't like I wasn't going to do anything with them anyway.
Yeah, I think that card is amazing. I think it's a little underrated, and I think we probably, at least I didn't play it as well as I could have because I didn't have the experience with it. But like, I think it single-handedly won me a game in the finals. The one where I was able to, I think it was game 3 actually, where I was able to clandestine on a Yoda right before he died to hit 5 cards to mill the rest of his deck.
So huge.
And like, I think you just auto lose the mirror if you don't have it. It like takes a whole round out from a opponent's deck.
Yeah. I played the Rose Double Jetta for a bit after Jason won the Store Champ with it, and when it worked, it hummed, but just 2 scrap heaps isn't enough. Adding Ralliate or Tech Team you think is enough for the dual threat to make the matchup versus this deck, if not winnable, at least evenish. I plan on getting into the Rose Double Jetta deck. I actually want to play a Maz's Vault in that as well. I'm not super into the scrap heap, even though like when I played against Cuenca at my Store Champ, like he rolled the indirect, and then if I didn't mitigate it, he like dropped a scrap heap, and that doesn't seem like the most effective way to get my resources. But that I think it's so early in the format still that it takes time to hone a deck. Like we got so many reps to get this deck to where it is. So I think that deck is gonna go through the same process. But I'm with you. I don't like scrap heaps as much, or 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, I almost played Leia just because I had so many rests with it, and like the familiarity was a huge factor for me. Like I definitely know that like a lot of decks are not fully optimized. I mean, this deck might not even be, but yeah, you definitely need a lot more reps to get stuff to work.
It might not be, but it feels pretty good. So I don't know what. So Jordan, your opponent in the finals, what's up, Jordan, said at Pat McGee, the one where they know how Anakin's pod racer works and they don't target Cassian instead. I think that's probably from way before you got here. But I can't scroll up on the chat, sadly. So Golden Dice Podcast, Jack says, I got clandestine for like 11 at my Store Champ, so I know its potential, including the mill from the dice being resolved. Obviously 11 would be insane. So with Flames in the format, if you see blue, are you ever going to put extra pod racer in the bin or hold on to it? Do you think people start playing around Flames?
I don't know if you can afford to do that. Like holding on to a useless card just so they maybe get a card, that's really tough. I think it's really contextual. Like I don't ever see a situation where I can hold on to that card.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Flames is also any discard pile, right?
Like, you mean if they have one in their discard, they can do it to you?
I think so.
I'll look that up.
Yeah, any discard pile. Discard a card from play if there's a copy of that card in any discard pile. Savage.
That's gross. I didn't even know that's how it worked.
Tiny Grimes just uploaded a Keyforge podcast. Should we have done that?
We demoed it. So to go back to Jordan, someone asked, "Is there a version of Mother Mando's that beats 3-wide mill?" So that was what Jordan was responding to.
We skipped that question. Yeah, I think Jordan's was pretty damn good. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Jordan's deck was great. there wasn't a ton. I mean, I've never played the deck, so I can't speak to it. But like all three of those matches were super stressful, like super close. He obviously played it phenomenally. I think the biggest fault he had in the matchup was target selection. I think going for Yoda was wrong in all three games, and then definitely the 4 damage he put into Cassian, he knows was definitely incorrect.
Why do you
But
think going after Yoda was wrong? I don't know who else you would go for and get like you get bricked by the second chance.
I think really had to take Anakin off the table. Like I think if you take him off the table, it turns off so much utility from the pod racer that it would have really hurt my game plan.
Yeah, but like you even said in that match, Force Illusion's dead, and that's like the only thing that can keep Yoda alive. So I don't hate the idea of taking out Yoda quick and then moving on to Anakin. I agree, like that game where he could have killed Anakin and then he switched to I think it was a switch to Cassian late. I didn't like that move, but I didn't have an issue with him taking out Yoda. And he just wrote, I actually felt good about killing Yoda first, especially game one when Anakin had the shields.
Yeah, it was close. I mean, there was a reason. Like so, in games 1 and 2, I had the shields. Games 1 and 2, I put 2 shields on. Did I put 1 and 1 in game 2? I think
You put
'Cause
one
I
in
knew,
one game 2.
Yeah, because I knew he was
already
going for
going
Yoda,
after
but like
Yoda, yeah.
I generally always put 2. If I know like the player kind of has an idea what to do in the matchup, I usually put 2 on Anakin. Just 'cause I think he's so important early. I don't know. It's close. I think if he goes after Anakin and kills Anakin when he kills Yoda in most of those matchups, it's actually tougher for me.
Yeah, it can. Like Yoda also can help move the pod racer die. It's like obviously not automatic. It's much slower, but against that damage deck, it shouldn't matter as much when he has less mitigation. I went 1 and 1 every time. I never put the 2 shields on Anakin. And I never thought anyone would go for Anakin. Even Andrew Rothmel, I knew would go for Yoda, and I was right. I just don't think like going after Yoda is bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad. It's definitely like it's the two choices are Anakin and Yoda, obviously. I think I was just able to keep Yoda alive for longer because of the extra little bit of health.
Yeah, I mean, I left the shields off of Cassian and put the Force Meditation on him every single time, just because I wanted him to be the first target. So Woodrow asked, how many times do you take the shields? Do you take the shields versus Kylo Price on Throne Room? Yeah, I take the shields every time. There wasn't a time I didn't take the shields. I think, though, the Kylo Price, if you won the roll somehow, it would like be the miracle upon miracles, although I guess you always win your rolls. The crap is pretty bad not on its own battlefield. Any thoughts on that?
I think I would probably take my battlefield in the Kylo Price matchup.
Yeah. Jordan
They
says
just lose a ton of utility without Throne Room being able to like resolve unresolvable price dice.
yeah, and crossguard saber dice. Yeah, Jordan, you didn't derail anything, man. Happy to have you in here. One Gen Con runner up to another. You're my boy, Blue. Had a blast in the finals. Everything was great. Yeah, congrats again to you. Will the shirtless one grace us with an AMA? I think Cuenca would like an AMA. I think he would do that. But you'll have to ask him. Smurl, I know you know how to get in contact with him. I'm hyped to play. Did you see those discard to reroll promos that I posted today?
I did. They look
They're
sick.
insane. I need to talk to Chip about getting a second C3PO. I want it real bad. Real bad. I forgot all about the MC Chris Boba Fett song. Is that before your time? Do you know what Adult Swim is?
I do know of it.
Did you ever watch C-Lab 2021?
No.
That's got to be before your time. Yeah,
The only thing I remember from that was Space Ghost.
Yeah, Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. Yeah, I'll have to. Do you have a DVD player? Maybe I'll send you my C-Lab CDs since I don't have a DVD player anymore. I'm too old.
Yeah, I do not at all.
Yeah, I think people who have DVD players are crazy.
We just stream everything.
Mm-hmm. Same. All my DVDs are in my classroom because it's the only place I have a DVD. I actually have a VCR in my classroom too, which is sick. All right, I will try and get Cuenca to do an AMA about his deck or all things Cuenca. We should probably just film Cuenca 24 hours a day.
It really would be like super entertaining at all
Ooh,
times.
C Lab is on Hulu. You should check that out if you have Hulu.
I do. I might do that.
It's pretty great. So C Lab was like an old school cartoon from like the 60s or 70s, and they just redub it to be hilarious. I mean,
All right.
they reanimate a lot of it too, but like the concept is like old.
So my favorite Cuenca story from Gen Con was what was it? I think it was Thursday. We were out to lunch and we went to the food trucks and we got there right as they were switching out. So all the food trucks were closed. And like I had the previous year gone, there's just like this noodle place that like super quick. I knew the food was super good and I like told everybody to come have some and nobody wanted it. Like nobody was down. They were super skeptical. The line was long, but I knew it moved quick. And Cuenca's like, I'm gonna walk to the mall. I was like, what? Like, where is that? And so like I don't know why Outrun did it, but Outrun decided to go with him. Like I first thought for sure we were never seeing the two of them again.
Yeah.
And apparently they like went the wrong direction. Finally got there. It took them like an hour, and like I was sitting there and I just eating my noodles, and I was super happy. And like finally Biggie went over and was like, hey, there's a cash line where there's no wait. You can just walk up and get food.
Yeah,
So,
that's it.
it all worked out.
I went to Starbucks instead, and that is the only time I made it over to that Starbucks. It was the line was insane out the rest of the weekend, so I'm happy that I got my one Starbucks. Did Cuenca not recognize any more prominent members of the Destiny community? I'm sure he did not, but he didn't like overtly ask them if they played Destiny or anything.
I think there needs to be like a Patreon stretch goal to get like Cuenca TV.
Yeah, they just like Dante just said, how many $3 a month subs do you add for a 24-hour webcam on Cuenca? Like we'd have to just do a preview. I should just post his freaking stand-up special. It's so ridiculous.
Can we get like a GoPro on him, like when he goes to the store championship?
Yes, we're gonna get a GoPro. I talked about this. Yeah, yep. Biggie just said the same thing. We're definitely getting a GoPro, 100%. I'm not even gonna tell Joe. I'm just gonna order it. That's how most of the things go. I want to spend money on something. Don't tell Joe. Just buy it. Tell him after. Requisition forms, baby.
Sounds like the correct way to do it.
Correct strategy. Is the millpocalypse upon us, do you think? I know we kind of answered in the pod, but yeah.
I don't think so. I'm actually surprised with. I don't know. I think the outcry has been muted compared to what I thought it was going to be. There's definitely like always going to be people complaining about any deck that wins any tournament. So I don't think it's really been that bad. And a lot of the community has really stepped in and been like, guys, it's a strategy. Figure out how to beat it. That's really the answer. So I think it'll be fine.
So, all right. But like things are always quiet in Destiny World, right? Like there's the ridiculous like KOR Discord like rabble that goes on. And then like I'm in a what's it called? Like a wind tunnel, like only in the Loops Discord really. But like I don't know. Who's even gonna say anything? Like the Your Destiny podcast, they haven't even released the Cuenca episode that was released a week ago. I mean, recorded a week ago. You know, like who's gonna talk about this when, and like who's got the voice to like, I don't know, to make that rabble happen? I guess is what I'm asking. I just want more. I just want more people to rise up. I want more teams to challenge. I want more content creators to challenge. Like, take a run. You know, that's just how I feel about it.
I mean, we talked about this. There's going to be, like, soon enough, there's going to be a Hyperloop Civil War because we have to have someone challenge us from somewhere. And if no other team is going to do it, we're going to have to do it ourselves.
2 wide versus 3 wide. Let's go. There's
The
got to be
school of Bobby versus the school of HS versus whatever we're calling what Nick does is.
the mad scientist. There's got to be a better way than having Sabina exist. You just don't even interact with her. That's the whole game. Yeah, I don't disagree that like you want to interact. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say I don't think Destiny's that greatly a designed game. Like I don't think having the dice rolling and the way the damage is dealt and the tiebreakers and the game structure is conducive to like a really interactive, fun game. It's just not. I just don't think. Smurl, I feel like Hero Mill decks are more friendly as they play more interactive. That was my experience playing Blue Red Mill. People always respond to, oh, that was actually really fun to play against. I'm sure people don't feel that way when they play your Leia Yoda Mill.
Yeah, that is not designed to be interactive. If you took Sabine and put her into a mill deck, that's what I designed my Leia Leota mill to be like.
Yeah, exactly. Which do I prefer, Trumper loops or hyper scoops? I'll always be a hyper scooper because I scoop the most to everybody. Darth YouTube, you should get a podcast with your friend. Thronkar was the opposite of the friendly mill. Thronkar was awesome. I played a little Unkar when he got balanced back to +1, but it just wasn't good enough.
Never enjoyed playing Thronkar, but the most enjoyable meta time I've ever had was my FN Kylo versus Ace, who's another member who's local to me, his Thronkar. Those matches, I think every single game came down to a final dice roll, and it was so fun.
Yeah, that's crazy. I like kind of liked the Unkar FN. I forget who the other character was there. Maybe
Like Faust, right?
yeah, Faust. Was pretty chill. I don't think it was good enough, but it was pretty chill. All right, that's an hour. I think that's good on the Decklist AMA. Do you have anything else you want to say? You gonna do a tournament report?
I'll think about it. I didn't really write anything down, so I don't know how much I remember. I'm gonna be like making some appearances on different places, so we'll see if there's anything left to say after all that.
Oh, well, plug your appearances. Where are you going?
So I'm gonna be on the Jackman guys. We're trying to schedule most likely Wednesday. We're gonna do that, and then I'm gonna make some kind of appearance on the Down Under podcast because
Nice.
I gotta hook my boy Bounce up. So we're
Yeah.
gonna figure out that kind of scheduling. So that's everything I have for now. But yeah, the Shots Fired podcast will come out in the next couple days, I'm sure.
Oh, it'll come out tomorrow.
Sick. So
It's already uploaded and scheduled. I did zero editing. I didn't add any music, even though I have a song that I want to add to the front. I just didn't do it because we get done like 10 minutes before this. Smurl did ask, is Leia 3-wide possible? I don't think so. Like, I don't want to do one of her dice, and like two of her dice is 15 and 7 is 22. So like, who do you use as your blue character if you're using it with Anakin?
yeah, I don't think so. I think Leia is meant to be like a speed character, at least in my view. So I think going 3 wide is anti her strategy, and yeah, I don't even know what pairing she would have.
Can think about it. I just like I'm over Mill. I've been working on it like before Worlds, and now going into this, I'm ready to work on some of that Yoda casting aggro, some Jetta Rose Jetta Jetta. I always do that. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for me. So on behalf of Andrew Cox, the North American champion of 2018, and the Mill Apocalypse, thanks for tuning in. Hope we answered all your questions, and I'll be this will be ready to go on YouTube and Twitch right away. So if you watched it later, I hope you enjoyed it too. All right, peace.
Later.